What celebrity have you met that was surprisingly nice? Rude. Will Smith. Worked a private event for him a couple years back. He made sure to thank each and every employee when he arrived and before he left. He had the best manners and was in such a jovial mood. Joking around with the staff. Great guy. Yes. My partner recently shot a thing with him. And he has so many stories about how genuinely kind Will is. He was shooting a comedy thing with Will in Vegas with maybe 10-15 other comedians. Many of whom I also know. And everyone has a Will story. He hugged them for a true 5 minutes. He gave them a $500 poker chip. He talked to their parents on video chat. He promoted their album. He gave them advice. Great dude. A lot of Redditors mention Gordon Ramsay being lovely. My godsister can confirm. She worked at a hotel restaurant in Cornwall where Ramsay vacations at regularly. She was so nervous she spilt something, but he just gave her a really fatherly warm smile and went, "No, it's okay my darling," and continued on with his conversation. When I was a kid, my family took a trip to London and we were shopping in Harrods. Being the kid I was running around while my parents shopped. I ran up to this man, looked up and said, "You look really familiar. Have we met?" And he flashes a smile and says, "No. But I get that a lot," and then he walks off. My dad came right over and went, "You do realize that was MR Bean you just spoke to, right?" Double quote. I work in the film industry. Weird Al is insanely fking nice. Like, you ask him for a photo and he'll make a 10-second video for your dad. Nice. His was honestly one of the best concerts I've ever been to, and I've seen a ton of bands. People laugh when I say that, but it's true. Guy changed costumes at least 7 times and never took a break. I don't think anyone would be surprised that Jeff Goldblum is nice. But I can attest to it. I was an extra in a movie with him. When he arrived on the scene, some nasty film crew woman was screaming at us not to bother him or ask for his autograph, which none of us had done. He must have heard her, because he turned right around and came over to talk to us. Back when they were filming Lord of the Rings All the Hobbits, Elijah Wood, Frodo Baggins, Sean Astin, Samwise Gamgee, Billy Boyd, Peregrine Took, and Dominic Monaghan, Maria Doc Brandebuck, came into my mom's video store and wanted to rent all of Peter Jackson's movies. They were so excited to have a movie marathon, I thought it was super cute. Edit. They were nice. Close bracket. I met Elijah Wood when he went to the cinema that I worked at. I asked him if he needed a booster seat. For a second I thought that I had gone too far and was about to get fired. His much taller friends thought that it was hilarious and I got a little laugh out of Elijah. So for not getting me fired, I am going to declare Elijah as one of the nice ones. It was my first time in New York City. Just got off the plane and had my luggage in hand walking to my Airbnb. It was probably 2 AM and I heard a very distinct laugh. I looked across the alley and it was Sal from the Impractical Jokers standing outside of a comedy club smoking weed with his buddies. I went up and got a picture and talked about what to do in the city. I told him I'm from Oklahoma and he almost fell down laughing and said nobody is really from Oklahoma. Double quote. It was great. Super cool dude. Jared Leto came to the climbing gym I worked at once. He was just kinda a douche to the staff. He's the leader of a mostly female cult, so this doesn't surprise me. I wonder if something horrible will come out of that. Tom Felton, Draco Malfoy in Harry Potter, was very sweet. Met him at Comic Con one year. He told me I had a beautiful smile. Close bracket. Pink the singer, in 2004, was incredibly friendly in a natural down-to-earth way. Considering she was on the height of her fame at the time. She was also shorter than me, 13 years old then, and smelled very fruity and waited patiently for my mom to figure out how to take a picture of us with her phone. Cool person. Robert Downey Jr. We were on the same flight. Super personable. Witty. I didn't realize it was him at first. I know a guy who used to party with him before he got sober. And even in his hardcore days, he was a really nice guy to everyone. My dad met Lady Gaga at a restaurant in Nick and said she was one of the most genuinely sweet human beings he has ever met in his entire life. He called her enchanting and actually became a fan of hers after that. She did a nice show at Fontainebleau Hotel in Miami and it was a small venue. She was very friendly with everyone and the talent was apparent. I think what had us laughing the most was her language. That lady had got one heck of a mouth on her. But never mean. Not me but my dad's story. My dad interviewed Mr. Rogers and Mr. Rogers was very nice. But the highlight of the interview was Mr. Rogers saying he was proud of my dad. Great guy. Mark Ruffalo was a sweetheart. Jesse Eisenberg was very arrogant. Javier Bardem was cool. Really short though, which surprised me cause he always seems so intimidating and overbearing in movies. Great actor. One by my former co-workers, since deceased, co-owned a Christmas tree farm with her son right 9 near the PANY border on the NY side. Which is apparently close to where Mark Ruffalo lives with his family. She's met him several times when they came to the farm to pick out a Christmas tree and she didn't know how big of an actor he was because apparently he's a nice and chill guy. R.L. Stein, Goosebumps author, is an asshole. Took my son on a school trip to the Scholastic store for a book reading. R.L. Stein, Goosebumps author, is an asshole. Took my son on a school trip to the Scholastic store for a book reading. Met Vincent Price when I was a kid. He was speaking at the college where my parents worked and since our house was next to the auditorium we usually hosted the meet and greets. I was only supposed to be allowed in with the grown-ups long enough to say hello, but when I blurted out how much I liked scary movies he stopped to talk. He was extraordinarily patient and kind to a 9-year-old kid who just wanted to talk monster movies and show off his monster dioramas. I met Chris Hemsworth when I consulted on a movie. Super nice guy. Met Lisa Edelstein at a Starbucks in SF. Her smile is even more impressive in person. I met both William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy at different times. Shatner was a jerk and just wasn't very nice at all. I've been around him twice and he was the same both times. Leonard on the other hand was incredibly cool. He was giving a talk at the place where I work and we all knew he was coming, so we sat at a table outside near the entrance so we could see when he arrived. His security people led him from the car to the building and we said hello as he passed. They took him inside for a private green room to relax before he went on. To our surprise, after the handlers dropped him off at the green room he came back outside, sat down with us and just hung out. We talked about food and cool places to see nearby. We just chatted like he was one of the crew. Class act guy. One of the neatest celebrity encounters I've had. I've also met Stan Lee. Twice actually, 2 different Comic-Con years. At the first I got my picture taken with him and were instructed not to touch or talk to him. When I walked in, probably 15 years old at the time, he sweetly smiled and said hi. The second time I got that picture autographed and he was kind to both me and my father. So great to meet a legend like him. R.I.P. Stan. It is probably not at all surprising but I met Alison Brie about 10 years ago and she was super lovely. It was in Nick at a fashions night out event. I'm a big Community fan and mentioned so to her. She was very nice. Took a photo with me and complimented my necklace. My old man went to high school with Brett Cullen, the guy who plays Thomas Wayne in Joker. My dad always talks about him in a positive way that one would about an old high school friend. But when my mom died in 2017, he came back to Texas for the funeral and did nothing but support my dad. Drink beer on the porch and shoot the shit. Totally cool guy who has been busting his ass in Hollywood since the 80s on mostly bit parts. Glad to see him in bigger things. I used to have a job as a backstage caterer. Hands down the worst was Kenny Rogers. He pitched a BTCH fit about the food and threw plates at me. The best was Def Leppard. Specifically Joe Elliott. Joe was very gracious. And a gentleman. He insisted on helping me serve the food. Then insisted I eat with them. When I said I would get in trouble for that, he said he would fix it with my boss. And he did right then on the phone. When it was time for me to leave, I had to pick up my daughter from the sitter. He walked me to the front doors of the venue, kissed me on the cheek, and told me I was a wonderful lady. He also made sure I was paid for the time I was there. My boss told me that Joe had told him that I was working the entire time. Not true. I was eating, drinking, and relaxing. Then my boss handed me a sealed envelope. Inside was $500 and a note from Joe thanking me for the service and for being a normal person around him. Lol. At the time, I really had no idea who he was. Not surprisingly, Def Leppard became one of my favorite bands. It's pretty well established that he's nice, but Hugh Jackman is one of the nicest human beings I've ever encountered. A friend of mine went to the premiere of X-Men Origins Wolverine and they camped out by the theater. He said he woke up and he was told that Hugh Jackman had bought everyone who camped breakfast. It was a little breakfast sandwich and an orange juice, I believe. He also said there was at least 100 people there. Paris Hilton. I didn't meet her in person, but I worked for an airline answering phones as a supervisor. She called in to change her itinerary on New Year's Day years ago when she was very much in the public eye. It would have been about 3:00 a.m. where she was, and I could hear the party going on in the background. She was my very first call of the morning where I was on the East Coast. 7:00 a.m. I was hungover as FCK and in no mood to be at work. She was absolutely the nicest person to deal with. She was really sweet and patient. She made small talk while I changed her reservation and seemed genuinely kind. I was pleasantly surprised. I met Hilary Duff when I worked at a grocery store. She was having a party and came in for some cheese and crackers. She was super friendly. Morgan Freeman. His jet is worked on by my family and he will commonly fly here on it and travel to one of his home residences, Memphis, TN or Oxford, MS, and acts exactly as you would expect him to. Very cordial. Very respectful. Sets aside his time to speak with and take pics with people and acts as though he genuinely enjoys it. I work as a background extra and sometimes get to meet cool people. John Cusack was very nice. Billy Bob Thornton is amazing. There was only 10 of us working with him on a night shoot and he took the time to introduce and shake each of our hands. That never happens. Keanu is a doll. Tom Hardy is cool. I lost my shit over James Hetfield, Metallica, and he couldn't have been nicer. 13 Reasons Why cast was cool. They stuck to themselves but would say hi to us if they recognized us after a while. I was part of one of the core groups. Close bracket. TBH, I've yet to work with a dick. Patrick Stewart, an absolute delight. Waited on him several times. Literally went up to the line at the open kitchen and said thank you to the cooks. And thanked each staff member in a glorious fashion on his way out. Everyone's jaw dropped. Made our day each time. Ed Sheeran. Before the fame, I met him when he was a support act at a gig with an audience of maybe 100 people. After his act I got chatting to him and he said he'd come play at my student house if I paid for his train and gave him a couch for the night. We took a pic together and slightly tipsy I told him he's going to be famous. It felt like he was on the radio a matter of days later. So I never got my private gig. Aside from being unable to keep promises, he was very pleasant. I've met a ton of celebrities. Most were very nice, but none could hold a candle to the gentleman Chuck Norris is. Extremely personable. Easy to talk to. Very genuine. Really great guy. I've written this before but I worked at Much Music in Canada. Quick standouts are that Taylor Swift was extremely nice. Very polite and easy to work with. Smelled amazing lol. Great person overall. Very nice to our crew. Ryan Reynolds was a prick. People are always surprised when I say that, but out of all the celebs I had to work with, he was the worst. I don't give a shit if he's Twitter's darling right now. Fall Out Boy were nice. Patrick and Pete were kind of strange and awkward, but nice dudes overall. Robert Pattinson, this was during the Twilight days, was so odd and strange but a really cool guy. Easy. Down to earth. You could tell he didn't give a shit about Twilight, but he was funny and cool about it. Treated us all with respect. Mike Vallely was super f***ing cool. Met him outside a skate comp I couldn't pay for to get into. Dude paid my f***ing entrance fee. Signed my board and gave me a deck. Def unexpected from the most violent skateboarder ever lol. That's the thing dude. He was never specifically violent. He refused to be bullied and hated those that did. I took inspiration from that as a kid, and many people would be wise to steel themselves the way Mike did. I met Robin Williams, rest easy, Lord, on a ski lift in 2000. He was hilarious and 12-year-old me heard some very rude jokes. Heard some of them again later on a comedy special. The one that I specifically remember was about how intelligent design is bullshit because of how penises work. I don't know if he counts as a celebrity, but Bill Clinton was super nice to my friend Ron and me. He talked to us about jazz way longer than his handlers wanted him to. Saw Jonah Hill in New York a couple of years back. Didn't try to talk to him, because he was just minding his business and clearly just trying to blend in. But I saw him decide that the person in front of him was walking too slow, so he pushed them with both hands. Completely unprovoked. I've met maybe a dozen A-list celebs and maybe a few hundred who are way less famous were one-hit wonders while working at a studio. Most celebs are cool, but they're people and all the extra things that come with big productions usually f***ing suck. Lots and lots of grumpy assholes in the entertainment industry, but artists themselves are usually okay. Gwen Stefani was rude. Wouldn't allow people to take pictures. Would only answer certain questions, and when it was brought up that everyone who won tickets to see her was told we would get a free CD, she laughed and said hell no. The Thong Song Guy. Cisco. Stayed at the hotel I was working at in Las Vegas back when the song was popular. I had to assist him with a suite issue, and he and his manager were incredibly cool and polite. You hear lots of stories about musicians that have attitudes and such, but he was really nice. Donald Glover, no relation, Childish Gambino. I was working at a movie theater in 2014 and I guess he was performing at a music festival nearby the next day. He came in with a bunch of guys to see Godzilla in IMAX. I was working in the concession area and he came up, wearing sunglasses, and placed his order. I awkwardly stared at him for a second and just flat out asked, "Are you Donald Glover?" I was more familiar with him from Derek Comedy and Community than his music. At that point, he took his sunglasses off and just kinda sheepishly said yeah, and we shook hands. I briefly spoke to him about what he was in town for, and then several of my co-workers swarmed him and I apologized for blowing his cover. Back about 6 years ago, Elijah Wood was doing a film festival in my old hometown and came into the restaurant I was working at. And I got to make him pizza. Second proudest moment of my life. Which was made even better because Elijah was super chill. There's a very popular Australian children's author, Andy Griffiths. We've had him in at work for author talks a few times. He is so invested in getting kids writing. He will chat for ages afterwards with kids who want to be authors, giving them all the tips he can think of. Lovely guy.